keep your eyes quietly on the pebble or some very simple object that you can't really think much about. It's good to have a very simple object. I mean, at a certain point, one's thoughts about pebbles are somewhat limited. And so, you know, it's just to bring the mind and focus it. It also, having an object trains the eyes. In the Tibetan tradition, when you meditate, you keep the eyes open. So this trains our gaze so that it doesn't waver and the eyelashes are not flickering so much. But at this point, it doesn't matter. If you want to lightly close the eyes, that's fine. Another object of meditation could be sound. When we are practicing, then whatever sounds one hears, one just ignores. They're just sounds. They're not important, they've got nothing to do with what we're trying to do. And so we hear the sounds, but we don't react to them. There was one of these, what are they called? Where they test people scientifically. What's the word for that?
Experiment?
Experiment, that would be. Yes, they had this experiment in which they had somebody who didn't know how to meditate, somebody who was used to going into deep samadhis, sort of trance states, and somebody, a Zen master, I think. And what they did was that they had them meditate, sit there, and then they played a loud noise, just suddenly, like a gunshot or something like that, regularly. Every 2 minutes, say, they would hear the sound. And then they saw on their machines what happened. So with the person who had an untrained mind, when they first heard the gunshot, it was like this, they were very startled. And then when it came again, they were startled but less, and then less. And then as they began to know it was every 2 minutes, after a bit they ignored it. With the person who was in a very deep samadhi, they didn't react at all. But the Zen master, when they heard the first noise, they went boom, boom, and then the second time, boom, boom, and then the third time, boom, boom, and the fourth time, boom, boom. In fact, every time the noise, it was exactly the same, noted it, returned. And so this was very interesting because it shows the difference between Buddhist meditations and others. They were conscious of the noise, but they didn't think about the noise, right? They noted it, went back to the meditation. Every time they noted it because they were being very aware, very conscious. But here, it doesn't matter when it's sound, just sounds, we can not get involved with them. We can note them if we want to, but you don't have to get caught up in a dialogue about them. And you can just ignore them. They're not important at this point. Sound is just sound. Or one can also take the sound, if there's a lot of noise, I mean like birds singing or traffic or something like that, then one can take that sound as the meditation itself. And again, just sit there and be conscious of sound as it inputs onto our ears, but again, without making any judgments, without thinking about it, just being aware of it. This can actually be a very good meditation. One just sits there. If there is no sound, then bring the attention back to the breath. If there are a lot of sounds, then again, just being aware of the sounds without comment. This again brings the attention back into the present. So the Tibetans also, of course, are very fond of visualizations. And so another way to help to develop this single-pointed concentration is to, at the same time, develop one's powers of visualization. Often in the beginning, it's recommended one starts with a very simple image or with a seed syllable. If one takes an image or a seed syllable, one usually needs a representation in front, for example, a Buddha image. So get a nice Buddha image, or a tanka, or a statue, but one which is aesthetically pleasing, and then place that in front and look at it, and try to really visualize, see it all very, very clearly. Then, close one's eyes and try to visualize. And then if the mind drops, looking again until one is able to have as clear a visualization as if the object were in front of one, in fact, even clearer. If one is interested in Tibetan practice, which does take a lot of very complicated visualizations, it's very useful to do this practice of training the mind, how to visualize very, very clearly. Some people have very visual minds, and so they like to do this. Some people find it very hard to visualize, in which case it doesn't matter. But if one is visualizing, then sometimes they say it's good to start with the eyes and then build up, the nose, the mouth, the ears, the face, the hair, and then gradually the body, and then the hands, and the position of the hands and the feet, and so forth, and then the clothing. And if the visualization has jewelry, then the jewelry. Build it up, and then try to see it, and then go back to building it all up again, until the visualization becomes very stable. Again, the mind can be trained to do this. The advantage of this is it's a bit more interesting than the breath for those who are visual. And it prepares one for these very complicated Tibetan visualizations. But it's not necessary. The breath, as I say, is something which we have with us always. The good thing about the breath also is not only that it's with us all the time and brings us into the present, but it means it's something which we can carry with us during the day. When we're walking, or when we're driving, or when we're sitting at a computer, or when we're talking to people, or eating, or whatever we're doing during the day, we can at the same time bring our attention back to the breathing in and breathing out. No one has to know we're meditating. It's not that as soon as we start thinking of the breath, we have to sort of sit. We can be looking completely normal, and at the same time, our mind is conscious of the breath. And that immediately brings us back into ourselves again.